Thank you, Mr. President, members of the legislature. This motion, although it's cast as a reconsideration motion, is designed to give me the opportunity to continue hammering away. And I'm going to do that. I want it to be crystal clear from the record that everybody knew that this shift, to use Senator Waldman's nice language, is occurring. I call it a raid on the general fund because this money is never going to come back. It's gone. But it's not just taking money from the pot that is there now. It is shrinking the state's tax base. I'm really surprised that Senator Fulton, who is such a logical thinker, can arrive at the conclusion he did. So here's what I must accept based on the way I analyze this situation. He has not thought it through completely. He reminds me of this young lady. Her name was Dagmar, Senator Fulton. Let me tell you, it's not that you look like Dagmar or anything, but the way her experience unfolded in this classroom. This professor was talking on, and it was a very hot day. They didn't have air conditioning, so she would drowse, and she would drift in and out of sleep. So she heard the name Archimedes. Then she heard water. Then displacement of water, solid body, and these kind of things. So when the professor got through with his presentation, he said, "Dagmar," and she blinked awake, and he said, "I want to ask you a question about what I've been discussing. Have you paid attention?" She said, "Well, to be completely honest, to the extent that I could, I did." He said, "Did you understand what I was saying?" She said, "I understood part of it." He said, "Well, Archimedes came up with a theory. He was taking a bath, and it had to do with the water displaced while he was taking a bath." Then he went on to lay out this whole thing, which I won't take the time to do. So he asked her, "Dagmar, why do you think he came up with the theory on the day that he did?" She said, "It was probably the first time he ever took a bath." There are different conclusions people can draw from the same set of facts. So Senator Fulton, as far as he went, made sense. And I'm inviting him to go further because the logical processes of his mind will bring him unerringly to the right conclusion. That to allow a deviation from a philosophy such as his, which is valid, is not logical. The deviation is not logical, and here's why. We're not talking about a corporation. We're not talking about a PTA deciding how it's going to spend money or where little funds that they deal with will be shifted. We're talking about a governing body, a body that makes laws for the state, a body charged with the responsibility of making appropriate expenditures of money and appropriately handling that money in whatever way it is to be handled. To say that there are only two ways for this body to raise revenue, which, as Senator Carlson pointed out, are income tax and sales tax, it makes no sense whatsoever to say you're going to shrink that tax base permanently. And that's what is being done here. Why is it being done? Because some people say there is a problem with the amount of money available in the Highway Trust Fund. As a logical thinker, Senator Fulton would say, if the problem is that grave, and this is a large agency, the Department of Roads, charged with a great and important responsibility, building roads and maintaining them. That problem cannot be solved on a piecemeal basis. Sometimes piecemealing makes it worse. If a person has been without water a great long time, one of the worst things to do is give them some cold water to drink and let them drink as much as they want. What you have a desire for is not always what's best for you. That's why children have parents. If children could eat everything they wanted, take them to a candy store, and that's all they'd be eating until they got sick. And they feel like they'll never eat any candy again until they got well. So children are given parents. But Senator Carlson, when you look at the way some parents deal with their children, I agree with George Bernard Shaw. The people, the very ones who ought not to have children, are parents. This is similar to our responsibility as stewards over the state's money. People should not look at us and say they're the very ones who should not have that responsibility. I'd like to ask Senator Carlson a question or two.
Senator Carlson, would you yield to a question?
Yes, I will.
Senator Carlson, would you adopt this approach with reference to the Department of Health and Human Services, meaning that we would set aside out of the general fund from now on $25 million to spend as they see fit, as long as it's based on what the legislature assigned them to do?
No.
How about the Department of Corrections?
No.
What about the Attorney General? That office?
No.
Is Senator Sinowicki coaching you?
No.
Were you giving all the correct answers? Well, this, though, is one of those situations where, like Senator Fulton, you're willing to deviate from your good sense and fall into error, right?
You want me to answer yes or no?
I want you to give the answer that you think is appropriate to be fair to you.
It looks like I'm headed there.
So, but you're going to fall into error by following this course, right?
I want accountability.
You want accountability. So you, on whom?
On the Department of Roads.
And you're going to do that by guaranteeing them $10 million from now on without them having to come to the legislature for it, correct?
I guess I don't look at this shift as being exactly that.
How does it ensure accountability then? Because I'm missing something.
So far in our discussion, I'd have to agree it doesn't.
Okay, so then you're not getting that accountability. Not, you did away with a whole line of questions I was going to ask you by giving that forthright answer. I'm going to give you a test that I gave Senator Jensen, who used to be here. Now listen carefully.
Okay.
How do you pronounce C-O-P?
Cop.
How do you pronounce M-O-P?
Mop.
How do you pronounce D-R-O-P?
Drop.
When you come to a green light, what do you do?
Go.
See, he's sharp. Very good. Now, what direction do you think I want you to go on this bill?
I know where you want me to go.
And based on the answers you gave earlier, if you're going to be logical, which way should you go? If you're going to be logical and consistent, which way should you go?
I should probably go your way.
But you're going to not behave in a logical manner, correct?
You'll have to see.
You're not going to behave in a consistent manner, correct?
You'll have to see.
If I were a day into the future,
1 minute.
I would know which way you went, correct?
Correct.
Let's pretend we're there. Which way did you go?
Probably not the way you want.
So you are going to be illogical and inconsistent.
In your mind.
Based on your answers, though, you acknowledge that it would be inconsistent and illogical for you to go against what I'm offering. You said you would probably go my way if you were going to be logical and consistent. So if you're going to go opposite, then you're going to be illogical and inconsistent based on your own answers, right?
I would agree with that.
Thank you, Senator Carlson.
Okay.
He is an honest man, but he's not a wise man. He should go in the direction that his own logic, his own sense of consistency should take him. And that is the way we as a legislature should proceed. How many times have I spoken on this, Mr. President?
This is your opening, Senator Chambers.
How much time do I have on my opening?
None.
Oh, thank you.
Senator Howard, you're recognized to speak on the motion to reconsider the bracket motion.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the body. I offer my time to Senator Chambers.
Senator Chambers, Senator Howard would like to yield you 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
Thank you, Senator Howard. Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the legislature, Senator Carlson is very forthright, but he's not quite as direct immediately as I am. I have to pull teeth from the hen, but if I keep him up there long enough, he will give the answer that he knows is correct. But he just cannot act in accord with what he thinks would be logical and consistent. I think Senator Fulton has not thought this thing through. But when a worthy request is made by another agency, he should give them the same consideration he's giving to the Department of Roads. If there's an agency that ought to be given that money, it would be the Department of Health and Human Services based on what their charge is. But none of us trust HHS or any other department or agency of government enough to give them that blank check. But we're going to give it to the Department of Roads. And I think that is not wise. You all know it is not wise. And at some point, your constituents are going to ask you, why did you do that? And you'll stumble around, you'll fumble around, and you'll probably say, well, I didn't realize what I was doing. But I want the record to be clear that everybody knew what he or she was doing. I'd like to ask Senator Ray Jansen a question or two.
Senator Jansen, would you yield to a question from Senator Chambers?
Yes. Yes.
Senator Jansen, do you live in the town of Nickerson, or is that where your store is located?
No, I live in the village of Nickerson.
Oh, it's a village. What's the difference between a village and a town?
About 300 people, I believe. It's getting close to being a town.
Do they have roads in
Roads?
in the area where you live, R-O-A-D-S?
Yes, they have Highway 91 goes right directly by the town of Nickerson.
Is that highway well maintained?
Yes, it is.
Do you think that there would be more of a service to your town or village if additional roads were built, or you feel that that is adequate for the area?
I believe that it is adequate for that area.
Are you going to support this bill?
Yes, I am.
You're the chairperson of the Revenue Committee, is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you think it is a wise move for the legislature to consider this bill in isolation rather than along with other action that may be forthcoming from the Revenue Committee?
I believe it is.
You think it's wise?
Yes.
Did you say that at the time you were running for chair of the Revenue Committee?
Did I say what?
Did you say that you're going to be illogical, inconsistent, and wrong when you were running for the Revenue Committee, and that's why people should vote for you?
I maybe should have.
But you didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
Typical politician. Thank you, Senator Jansen. Members of the legislature, Senator Jansen knows, just like everybody else knows, what we ought to do. It is never too late to stop and turn around and move in the right direction. This is not the way we should legislate. Senator Fulton knows it. He tried to give himself a way out, though, by showing that in this case, he doesn't have to comply with his philosophical principle when it comes to this type of action by the legislature. If we would do it all the time for everybody,
1 minute.
there would be an unlimited number of these requests, and they would not, could not, and from what I gathered from him, should not be granted. But just because cars travel down the highway doesn't justify us in robbing the general fund. If he thinks there's more money needed for road building, road maintenance, get it a different way, but not by robbing the general fund. Why don't you just bring a bill and do it straight up and say, there's hereby appropriated from the general fund $10 million to the highway department or to the highway trust fund, and do that every year. instead of shrinking the state's tax base and depriving the state of that tax base forever. That's what's being done.
Time.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Your light is next. You're recognized to continue speaking, followed by Senator Carlson. Senator Chambers.
Thank you. Mr. President and members of the legislature, I'm going to hammer on something that I've repeated already. What is going to happen when your little bills come up and they will carry an A bill, and you're told there is not money available? Are you going to stand up, look pitiful, Senator Stoutman, turn those big soulful eyes back there to Senator Fisher and say, Senator Fisher, help me? And she'll say, okay. She'll open her purse and say, I got 35 cents. Will that help you, Senator Stoutman? Senator Stoutman will say, I need $35 million. She'll say, well, I can't help you, buddy. That day of reckoning is going to come. There sits Senator Copeland. He is a member of the Education Committee. I'd like to ask him a question or two. Tap into his knowledge and expertise.
Senator Copeland, would you yield to a question?
Yes, I certainly would.
Senator Copeland, before I proceed, should the word expertise, should that last syllable be pronounced as though it's a Z, expertise, or as though it might be an IC, expert, or EES, expertise?
I would say expertise.
Expertise. May I gain the benefit of your expertise at this point?
Yes, sir.
And I'm not just teasing. Senator Copeland, has the Education Committee, and I know the answer, been working for a good long time trying to come up with some kind of proposal to present to the legislature to address the problem of education in the metropolitan area of Omaha and its environs?
We've been working very hard.
Have you heard or read where the governor would like to see something like this take place?
Yes, I have.
Have you heard him give the caveat every time, but my support is going to be limited by the cost of this plan?
I read that carefully, yes.
So some programs are going to be able to go only so far as long as they don't cost more than a certain amount of money, whatever that turns out to be. Is that the way you would construe what his position has been?
That would be his position, not necessarily mine.
Right. I'm not saying that's your position at all, and it's not mine either, by the way. Do you support this bill, LB 305?
I have been. You're making some good arguments.
Senator Copeland, if something is to be done in the realm of education, what pot is the money going to come from to pay for it?
Only the general fund.
And this bill that we're considering here, will it add to the general fund or take money out of the general fund?
No, sir, it takes a big chunk out.
Will this money that comes out of the general fund be spent in pursuit of better education for the state's children?
No, it would not.
If this chunk is taken out, will that leave less money available to find money to pay for education for the state's children?
9 million less, yes.
9.9 million, which
All right.
That's why I say 10 million. Senator Copeland, you value roads over the education of the state's children, correct or incorrect?
That would be incorrect.
1 minute.
Now, have you heard of a person called Jesus?
Yes, I have.
Have you read or heard him say, a tree is known by the fruit it bears?
Yes, I have.
That means you judge what a person's view is by his or her conduct. Would you agree?
That I would agree.
Well, if you're willing to give money to the roads that may take money from the children's education, would that indicate to some people that you value roads over the children's education?
It would have that appeal.
Thank you. You're a very forthright man. Thank you, Mr. President.
As Senator Stoutman might say, engage in a little conversation with Senator Chambers.
Senator Chambers, would you yield to a question?
My pleasure.
Senator Chambers, you're very, very good with words, and you are very intelligent. Would you pronounce this word for me? B-A-S-E-B-A-L-L.
Say it again.
B-A-S-E-B-A-L-L.
As you gave it to me, it might be bossa ball, but the way I pronounce it is baseball.
All right, you are sharp. That's much better than most do.
Iron sharpens iron. You got me earlier. All I say now is touche, or as my colleagues might say, touchy.
You got to do that and move forward, or we really don't get much done. Now, I'm listening to the debate today and listening to you. You've inspired me today. Next year, I would like to present a bill to we are, as first year, I'd use the term new, but I'm not new, but first year senators, we're on a fast learning curve, and you understand and know that. I don't understand everything that I'd like to, certainly about the Highway Trust Fund. I don't have the full picture. I don't have all the knowledge. I don't have all the facts. I simply act on what I do know and what I learn as I listen.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the legislature, Senator Carlson, I don't think any of us who believe that education ought to be an ongoing process all of our life will ever believe we have all of the facts, or we would just stop. Like you, I don't have all of the facts really on anything. I don't really know that I was born when I was told that I was born. Obviously, I had to be there, but I don't remember a time when I was not in existence. So some people could have been misleading me. I could have been here forever. So we're always going to be learning. But here's what I'm getting at on this issue. Regardless of how short a time we may have been here, we all know by now that the place where the state's funds wind up is called the general fund, and from the money there, appropriations are made so that that money will be spent here, there, or wherever else. There are two sources of raising money by the state, and you pointed them out: sales tax, income tax. The state does not have other avenues for raising taxes. Revenue, I know they talk about excise, or they give different names, but they're taxes anyway. When we reduce the tax base of the state, we cripple our ability as a legislature to do the things that need to be done. When we reach the latter parts of this session, the A bills that are going to fail, it might seem ironic, might be the small ones. The big ones have enough support from special interest groups or others to get what they need. Taking this $10 million off the table is going to be a justification to say that bill cannot be funded, this one cannot be funded, the other cannot be funded, and that decision will have nothing to do with the quality, the merit of the particular program. We're dealing in politics. Politics can be described various ways. Terry Carpenter, who used to be here, said he deemed politics to be a dirty, backstabbing, double-crossing business, and that's why I like it, said Terry Carpenter. People present a certain front which may or may not be what they really are. They may genuinely hold a position on Monday, which for legitimate reasons they alter on Tuesday. They ought to notify the people who may have trusted them to hold that position that they've changed their mind. And it has to be the prerogative of people to change their mind, and that has to be accepted, even though it's harder to accept it at some times than others. But when it comes to the notion that because you support something like this today, people are going to be as open-minded and considerate when a proposal of yours comes up tomorrow is a mistake when you're in a political setting. They want what they want today. The only reason some people are engaging in this discussion is because they're opposed to what it is I want to do. Not that they have an interest in the legislative process as I have, or maintaining the integrity of the legislature and the general fund as I do. But
1 minute.
Their particular ox is going to be gored, and they don't want that to happen, so they will talk. Somebody has to be the gatekeeper when it comes to how the legislature functions. I assume certain responsibilities that are not mine just because I'm here or just because I'm a member of the legislature. But I think there are ways we ought to proceed, and one of the greatest mistakes we can make is to permanently reduce the state's tax base. And you're going to send that good money into a broken program if what we're being told by the supporters of this bill is true. This is not going to solve the problem. It's going to persist and become increasingly severe. So today, you take $10 million from the trust fund, from the general fund. Will it be 20 tomorrow? And is that how we ought to do other programs?
Time.
Don't go through the budgeting process, but circumvent it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Chambers, thank you. That was your third time. You are recognized to close, however, on the motion to reconsider.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the legislature, sometimes, as they say, before the dawn, the darkest hour is before the dawn. And the reason people should never give up is because as long as you are alive and there is time, you may live to see the dawn. But what I'm interested in seeing is other people live to see the dawn. On this bill, I don't want to see the legislative process skewed. You saw the position that Senator Copeland has put in. Do you think I, for a moment, believe that because in response to my questions, the appearance resulted from his answers out of his own mouth that he cares more for roads than he does for children? I don't believe that for a moment. But I was just trying to show the untenable positions we let ourselves get put into when we deviate from that which is appropriate for the legislature to do. Senator Carlson confessed that he has to behave illogically and inconsistently with what he thinks ought to be done to go along with what we're doing. Senator Fulton tried in a yeoman fashion to provide a rationale and justification that would be accepted by others when it's not even accepted by him, that what he's doing makes sense. But it doesn't make sense to him. He's smarter than that. I'd like to ask Senator Fulton a question.
Senator Fulton, would you yield to a question from Senator Chambers?
I will.
Senator Fulton, I said you're smarter than that. Is that true? Are you smarter than that, or are you not smarter than that?
That depends on what the meaning of the word "that" is, sir.
Are you smarter than to do that of which we've been talking?
If in asking whether or not I'm smarter than that which was said earlier about my smartness, then I would not be smarter than that.
All right. Thank you, Senator Fulton. Members of the legislature, as we proceed, you are going to see that what is being proposed here is not in keeping with the way we're going to operate. I don't see Senator Cruz back there, but I see Senator Friend. I'd like to ask Senator Friend a question or two.
Senator Friend, would you yield to a question from Senator Chambers?
Senator Friend.
Yes, I will.
Senator Friend, have you ever been a member of the, let me ask it a different way. Are you now, or have you ever been a member of the Appropriations Committee?
I thought you were going to ask me the KKK or something like that.
No, don't worry
It started
about
to
it.
scare me.
Would you please answer the question?
Yeah, no, I have not.
Okay. Have you been aware of the work done by the Appropriations Committee?
Yes.
Do they usually try to have a united front when they come out here to support the proposals they present to us?
They make a very solid attempt to do that, yeah.
And have there been occasions, nevertheless, when one or some of the members might, during debate, decide that they will break ranks and support something that the committee had not supported or oppose something that the committee had supported?
I've seen that happen.
Senator Friend, do you support this bill?
I do.
Senator Friend, do you have any bills that are going to carry an A bill this session?
1 minute.
That's a good question. I've got, Senator Chambers, I believe that I do have bills that would require an A bill, but I don't know that those are going anywhere.
I better quit while we're all ahead. Thank you, Senator Friend. Thank
Sure.
you, Mr. President.